I'm Bonnie, and today I'll be talking all about June. I'm very excited for this one. I still love this theme. I adore it. It just everything sort of fell in place beautifully with this theme, and even though I did a few mistakes here and there, the end result is just beautiful. And I love it, and I think I love it so much because it exceeded my expectations. So we're gonna talk about how the theme came to be, the supplies I used, and the layouts I went with. So hello. My sister this year is choosing my themes, and June is her birthday month, so she was very adamant about the theme being whatever she chooses. I have no input whatsoever, so she was like, bunnies. I was like, okay. And that was maybe late April, so I had a little bit to think about it, but I had no idea what I was gonna do. There are way too many ways in which I can go about a bunnies theme, and I thought about bunnies and daisies, bunnies and like green fields, a family of bunnies in winter, even though it was not winter in June. I thought about bunnies in wicker baskets, but then I came across this picture and I was like, bunnies and lavenders, that's what I'm gonna do. And I was subconsciously influenced and inspired by a YouTuber and a bullet journaler here on YouTube. I'll try and put the video on screen because I cannot remember the name of the artist, but she did a bunnies and lavenders theme, and I was reminded by it when I was looking for bunnies bullet journal themes inspo on YouTube, and her video came up and I had already watched it, and I was like, oh, same combo, so slightly inspired by that. But the picture I saw is really what sold me, and I was like, okay, that's gonna go on my cover page. And immediately I thought how I was gonna have the cover page. I'm gonna have the font be under the painting, so the bunny sort of is sitting on top of the letters. And then I decided that I wanted these frames on other spreads, so I added one here, and yeah, it's just filled together. And this theme is relatively simple. There are only two illustrations, this one on the cover page and another one on the monthly log / calendar. So starting with the cover page, again, I used the image that inspired this whole theme, and it turned out really good. And I didn't do too well on the leaves here because I was just starting. I wasn't sure how to go about them, but that improved in later spreads. So as you can see, there's this one leaf that doesn't make sense and it's actually the wrong color, but I didn't know how to fix it, so I just kept it as is. Let's talk about the supplies I used. So I went with gouache because that would be the easiest way for me personally. If I'm tight on time and I want the theme to work, I will go with gouache over other types of supplies. So these are the colors I used purely from memory. Maybe I dabbled into some other color, but from what I remember, those were the colors that I used, which is for the bunny itself. I used quite a bit of colors. I used white, obviously, so we have titanium white. I also used brown, so I used burnt sienna and burnt umber because this is more of a cool tone brown, while burnt sienna is more of a warm tone brown. So I ended up using burnt umber for the most part, but if I needed to warm things up, I went with a burnt sienna or added a little bit of burnt sienna in there, and obviously black to add some of the shadows and some of the details. So these colors were for the bunny. And a couple of months ago, I did a birthday card for my friend, and it was a teddy bear, and that turned out so good. I did it with gouache also, and I'm discovering that I do animals with gouache very well, or at least I know how to do it. I'm liking how I did this bunny less and less every time I look at it, because there is definitely room for improvement. But as a person who has never officially learned how to paint animals, I'm proud of this one. So my technique is going with strokes. I don't go with like a flat layer or anything. It's always strokes. Started the white or like a beigey color that was in strokes, and the sort of the patchiness makes it look a little bit more furry. But every time I added colors or details, it was always in short stroke motions everywhere, on the head, around the snout, mouth, the ears, the body, the legs, everywhere I kept the same movement and somewhat in the same direction. And the beautiful thing about working with gouache is if I ended up adding too large of a stroke, or I didn't like how it looked, I can go with a clean, slightly wet brush and blend it in, and it's like I never did anything. So gouache is very forgiving in that, so I really recommend it for animals. But that's how I did the bunny. And I actually think I went with maybe a brush pen, a black brush pen, to do some of the details a little bit cleaner than I would be able to with a brush. And for the ears, I'm pretty sure I added some rose red to the ears, and I think that is the only place where the rose red makes an appearance in this theme, is in the bunny ears, just to make it a little bit more pinkish. As for the lavenders, those were the easiest thing to paint in my life. I'm actually gonna bring my brush and demonstrate how the lavenders are done, because there's nothing easier than painting lavenders. I went with a more larger brush, maybe size 10, but I cannot figure out where I placed my brush container, so on the larger side. And I do recommend this particular shape, and you want to load it up with the paint and then dab. It is a dabbing motion through and through. If you add too much paint and it's like one block of color, dab your brush into a clean paper towel and go back in and leave a little bit of space in between the dabs so that the shape of the lavender takes place. And you can go diagonally, is how I like to do it. So in this sort of motion, and leave it in a point at the top. And I went with a mauve color, but I probably added blue to this because it was too magenta than purple, but I'm not too entirely sure. So make sure you have a purple that you like, and that's all that matters. But this was so easy. The lavenders took 2 seconds each to do. I was blown away and fascinated at how quickly I could do these. And then for the leaves, obviously I used grass green, and I mixed it with a little bit of the burnt umber, and that will give it a less blue tone and somewhat of an olivey and muddy tone, which I prefer. And I was really happy to get a green that I liked. So those were the colors that I used to do this. The sky, I actually used some watercolor paint instead of gouache. I was somewhat scared to use gouache on this, so I used pale blue mixed with a lot of white and also a little bit of a warm gray from my paint palette, and mixed with a lot of water, watered down quite a bit, and then I just used a large brush and went around the painting. And then to blend it, I went with a clean brush with a lot of water to blend it and give it this look, because I did not want the sky to be a definite circle or square. For the font, I saw this font on Pinterest and I immediately liked it and thought it fit for this theme. It is somewhat of a whimsical font, and I didn't want to add too much of a whimsical vibe because I didn't want this to give Alice in Wonderland, even though nothing about this says Alice in Wonderland, but I just did not want that to be a distinction. So that is to say, I liked this font and I used a brush pen to color it in, because that would be the easiest way to do it. And then I wanted to add these inward rounded corner rectangle. I don't know what this shape is called. I added it on other spreads, so I decided it was a good way to add it here as well. And I ended up using fountain pens in purple and cyan in this layout, and here I did the rectangle in purple before I realized that I actually wanted the rectangles to be in cyan. I think my AC is dripping water, but that is fine. I did do that on other spreads as well, where I outlined it, or like did the spread before, where I didn't do the spreads in chronological order, so that means that I did some other spreads before I realized that I wanted things to look a certain way. So let me just put away the colors right here. Flipping over, we have my monthly log / calendar. So this was one of the inspo pictures that I had gathered before I realized that I wanted to do a bunnies and lavender theme, and it was of these two bunnies in a wheat field, and I just really liked the illustration, so I saved it thinking that I would go with something like that. And when I switched to a lavender plus bunny theme concept, I was like, I can still use this, just switch the wheat for lavender because they are similar enough. And that's what I did, and it turned out beautiful. So I'm really proud of this one, even though it does not look all that good sometimes. I feel like I did the same exact thing for the bunny, going with the strokes with the same exact colors, and using the pink and the brown and the stuff for the inside of the ears, black brush pen or a fine liner for the details, the green mixed with brown for the leaves, and then the lavenders. And I really love how this turned out. I think it's one of my best work, and I just love how I did the leaves, because scenery like this really intimidate me, because like, how are you gonna supposed to add details when it's all one color? So I left blank spaces between the individual strokes and added darker strokes to imitate some shadows and stuff, just to give it some variation, and it doesn't look like one blob of green. And that really worked well. And then I did the same thing for the sky, except this time it is contained within the container or the rectangle, which is this rectangle with inward rounded corners. And I did the blue outline here because I didn't want to use green or purple necessarily. And then the way I envisioned it is that the illustration and calendar mirror each other perfectly, so I did the same exact shape in the same placement and size here, and I did some calculation to have my calendar be sized well within this box, and I used the same exact font to do the days of the week, and I did them with the purple purple brush pen, and that was my calendar. And I did the outline in blue to imitate the blue outline here, and did the numbers in purple as well. I really love this illustration. It looks so good. There's room for improvement for sure, but I love it. Next we have my dashboard. So this is why I wanted to go with the inward rounded corner rectangle thingy, because I remembered this layout, which I've done very early on when I was bullet journaling, and I thought it was a cute idea here, so I ended up doing the inner rounded corners everywhere else. I did a simple circle with some lavender sprigs here and there, and divided the rectangle into 4 sections, and then ended up just writing the first letter of each section, which is finance, university, freelance, and summer. To-do list, that is. So yeah, I definitely should have thought more about the categories I needed, but oh well. And then I have my outfit tracker and books read tracker as well, and I was supposed to add a tracker here, but I just forgot what it was supposed to be and then never got around to setting it up and actually using it. Then we have my weeklies, and I knew I was gonna be very busy at the start of June, and this is also the start of summer, so I'm not gonna have too much to do anyway. So I decided to do all 4 weeks into one spread. And I've done this before in December of last year, and I really enjoyed it. It was for the same reason. I had finals in the beginning of the month and nothing much after. So I did all 4 weeks into this double page, and it turned out really well. So I redid it here. I used the same inward rounded corner here. And because I used the fountain pens, this is not the easiest thing to do curves with, which is why we have mistakes such as these, and there were some here as well that I tried to cover up with the little bushes and sprigs of lavender and grass. And oh, I forgot to mention this, but I actually went with the fountain pen on top of the painted lavenders to add some shadow at the bottom of the clusters of petals, I guess. I used the same exact font to do the days of the week from Sunday to Saturday, and then used also the same font for the letter W and a number font that I found on Pinterest that I thought matched the vibe, and then I was inspired by another totally different font that I will put on the screen that had like lavender sprigs around the letters. So I decided to do something similar to that, and it is just so that I can, differentiate and fill the page and, make a header. And as you can see, I used it pretty well. I was studying, revising, and taking exams throughout the first week, and then after that it was summer with sometimes too much to do and sometimes not very much. I didn't even write anything on the last day of the month because I forgot. I don't even remember what I did on that day. But yes, here's where I decided I wanted the outlines to be blue, so these 3 spreads as well as the monthly log are in blue, but the cover page and the monthly review are not. I'm actually trying something in August where I'm giving myself even less space for each week, and we shall see how that works. But that is a nice challenge because no sense in setting up large areas for each day of the week if I can just contain them in this very small area. And let's see the size of this just for reference. So the entire shape is 5.8, I want to say, by 15.8, and then each section is 2.8 centimeters. I don't know why everything is 0.8, but it is, so that is that. Finally, we have my monthly review, and I actually did this right after the cover page, and the reason why I did some decoration here is because I traced the font a bit too higher than the rectangle, so I decided to add sprigs of grass and a few lavenders here and there. And then I did the rectangle in purple before I realized that I wanted it to be in blue, so that is unfortunate, but I didn't want the headers for each section to be in blue, so I ended up doing that in purple as well, and I think I probably should have gone with blue instead, but oh well. And here I used the font that I've been using just for the first letter for each word, so H from highlights, B from books, and the rest is just my regular calligraphy or faux calligraphy. So we have highlights, challenges accomplished to get to, book stats, finance, favorite outfit, and monthly reset. And I have not yet finished this monthly review actually. And here I'm working on a painting, but it is only halfway done. That is why I've put this, because I don't want the catastrophe of the current situation documented for all to see. So I've just slid this cover here so that you can see it. Let's take a look at the entire setup from start to finish. That is it for my June setup. It is relatively simple but very cohesive, very beautiful, and I just love it. I truly do. And next we're gonna look at my volume 2 of 2024 setup, and also July, and maybe after that August. I have a lot of plans, so subscribe so that you can tune in next time I post, and comment what you think about this. Comment a lavender if you have gotten to the end of the video. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next one.